Matthew 25. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his throne in heavenly glory. All the nations will be gathered together before him, and he will separate the people one from another, as the shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" The king will reply, "I tell you the truth, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me." Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me." They also will answer, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or needing clothes, or sick, or in prison, and did not help you?" He will reply, "I tell you the truth. Whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me." Then they will go away to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life. Now, I don't know about you, but we have a room in our house that is a catch-all room. It's one of the disadvantages of having a large house is you have space to put things you don't know what to do with at the time, and it eventually fills up. And when it fills up and you can't put any more stuff there that you don't know what to do with, you have to go through it. So I've been doing a lot of that this winter. And I came across my diploma from seminary. And I realized I graduated seminary 30 years ago this year. I needed another reminder that I'm getting old, but I graduated 30 years ago, and as I was thinking about 30 years ago, back when I was in seminary, I remembered a discussion we had in theology class. At the time, there was a song that was popular by a singer named Joan Osborne called "What If God Was One of Us?" Now, it was popular and it was controversial. I didn't understand the controversy at the time. I still really don't understand it because of my theology, but people were complaining that she didn't take God seriously enough in the song. One of the lines in the song is, "What if God was one of us, just a slob like one of us?" And they, how dare you call God a slob? Just a stranger on the bus. We talked about the theology of that song, and there were many individual lines in the song that we had difficulty with, and mainly because she chose them for rhyme scheme, not for theology, so kind of hard to blame her for that. But when we got down to the central message of the song, What if God was one of us? And her point is, would we recognize God if he was among us? And the implied answer, she doesn't actually give an answer, it's just questions in the song. But the implied answer is, most likely we wouldn't. Well, we came up with two conclusions in our discussion. And the first is, that's not a question. What if God was one of us? God is one of us. That's the message of Christ. Christ did not just come as God among us. He came as God as one of us. He was born as an infant. He grew up just like all of us grew up. He had parents just like we had parents. He most likely fell down when he was learning to walk. He probably skinned his knee on more than one occasion and ran to his mom for comfort. He knew what it was like to get hungry and thirsty and hot and tired. He knew what it was like to be sick and need it cared for. He knew what it was like to make friends and to lose friends. What if God was one of us? God is one of us. And Jesus makes that abundantly clear in the scripture we read today. He tells the people at the judgment day, I was all of these things, and you helped me. I was hungry, I was thirsty, I was naked, I was sick, I was in prison, and you helped me. And the righteous will go, Lord, when did we do that? I don't remember doing that. Not for you. When you did it for the least of these, you did it for me. And those on the other side will be equally shocked. Probably thinking, Lord, if I had ever seen you hungry, I would have fed you. If I had seen you thirsty, I would have fed you, given you something to drink. I would have visited you when you were sick or in prison. And Jesus said, what you didn't do for the least of these, you didn't do for me. Jesus is telling us that he lives as every person we meet who needs help. As everyone who is sick or in prison or hungry or thirsty or naked. It made me think of the fact that in all of the Gospels, in all of the Bible, we have no physical description of Jesus. Now, we all have an idea of what Jesus looks like, and it's based on lots of famous paintings. But there's a reason, I think, that the writers of the gospel did not bother to describe Jesus' appearance. because they understood what Jesus was saying here. Now, most pictures of Jesus that we see from Europe and America show a white man. Historically, Jesus probably wasn't white. Jesus of Nazareth was from the area of the world we call the Middle East, and he probably looked a lot like everybody else in that area. But I'm going to disagree for a second with those who say that Jesus wasn't white. Because Jesus is white. And he's also Middle Eastern. And he's also African. And he's Asian. And he's Native American. And he's Jamaican, and he's American, and he's German, and he's Polish. You get what I'm saying here? Jesus, historically, no, he wasn't white. But Jesus now is with us all. He's in us all. Now the question that we have to ask, that we want to ask, is how do we recognize Jesus in other people? Right? I mean, if that's Jesus, I certainly want to do good things for him. Now, next week I'm going to talk about how we get other people to recognize Jesus in us. But for this week I'm looking at how do we recognize Jesus in other people. And I've spent all week asking this question, and I don't have an answer. In fact, I don't think there is one. And I don't think there is supposed to be one. It's kind of like the stories you see sometime where the food critic is coming to the restaurant, and the chef and the owner want everything to go well for the food critic, but they don't recognize the critic when they show up, and they end up treating them badly. But they were hoping to recognize the critic and give them the best possible service. But because they failed to give the best service to somebody they did not recognize as important, the critic writes a very negative review of the restaurant. Those stories are kind of fun, you like to see arrogant people get what they deserve in those stories, but if we knew that was Jesus that needed food, we would definitely feed them. If we knew that that was Jesus that was thirsty, we would definitely give him something to drink. Guess what? Jesus doesn't say, here's how you recognize me. He says, it was me. It is me. Jesus exists with everyone who suffers. Now, that means all of us. That means everyone. It's not about recognizing Jesus. It's not about looking for the clues and saying, aha, I found Jesus. And it's got to make us question ourselves. Who have we turned away? Who have we turned away from? I'll be honest, When I was in Houston, every time you came off the interstate, there was somebody at the light on every corner of the exit ramps with a sign, homeless, anything will help. Starving, 4 kids. We'll work for food. One guy even had a sign up that said, I won't lie, I just want a beer. He actually made good money from everything I understood. And I'll be honest, I'd pull off the expressway, and if my windows were down, I'd roll them up. And if I'd check to make sure my doors were locked. Now, I believe that most of those people were not the things they said they were. But who did I turn away from helping that was? Who did I tell in my head wasn't worth my help, my time, my money, my effort? We pass judgment on people before we help them. We decide who is worthy of our help. Now, to a certain extent, we have to. We have limited resources. We want to give them where they will do the most good to the people who most need help. I'm not in favor of tossing money around wildly to anybody who claims they need help. I know that's not a very good way to give. But I also know that's not what Jesus told us. There's no easy answer. I wish there was. Again, I wish I could look and say, well, this person's Jesus, we should help them. And that person, they're not Jesus, we don't need to help them. It doesn't work that way. And no, we cannot visit every single person that is in the hospital, that is sick, or in prison. None of us can. We cannot feed everyone in the world or in our nation or even in our community that is hungry. But we need to recognize that when we are called, and we are called, to give of ourselves to those in need, we are giving to Jesus. And before we turn away, we need to look them in the face. And we need to see Jesus. And we need to do what we can. Again, it may not be money, it may not be time, it may just be a prayer. I can't tell you how to see Jesus in other people. But I can tell you, Jesus said, He is in everyone we see who is in need. Our closing hymn is number 581, "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus."